Hello there, welcome to another episode of Talking Nerdy, the show where we take various story arcs and events from current comics, and we cover them. I'm your host, Obi-Wan Jabroni. Now, on today's show, we will be covering X-Men 1 through 4, written by Jerry Dugan, with art by Pepe Larraz, and colors by Marte Garcia. The mutant nation of Krakoa is a refuge for its people, but the time has come for the newly elected X-Men to protect the rest of the world. So, with that, let's start talking nerdy. First up, we have X-Men number 1, in threes. Now, we open with a montage of a scientist named Kelvin Hing's life. Mom was a Nobel Prize winner from Serbia. Dad was China's finest nuclear physicist. Their son, Kelvin Heng, graduated MIT summa cum laude at age 13. He didn't believe in any god, but he had hoped his ancestors on his mother's side, Nikola Tesla, would be proud of him. Like Tesla, he was unlucky in the business of creation. He was taken advantage of when he was on his first IPO at age 15. Earned over $100 million on day one. His parents believed Kelvin was a one-hit wonder and shorted their own son. They strangled their golden goose, and Kelvin saw his money and his parents disappear forever. After a 5-year absence, the man came roaring back. Kelvin Heng was nothing but a dead name in the first paragraph of Finlong's wiki. Both the man and his company shared a new name. His second IPO promised planet-sized innovations in biology and climate science. Feilong turned the lifeless desert green and accomplished what he had never done on this planet. And he sought to give his gift to humanity in its conquest of Mars. For years, Feilong planned carefully. And then one night, the gods mocked him. Changing his body for Mars was far easier than changing Mars for his body. Suddenly, everything he ever wanted in his life was out of reach. The question was, who would pay for that theft? Now, we switch to the X-Men Central Park base in New York. And Cyclops is standing outside and is approached by the Daily Bugle reporter Ben Urich. Urich asks him about the new base before quickly changing the conversation to Jumbo Carnation. He says he covered Jumbo's death a few years ago and asked how he is alive because he had seen the body himself at the coroner's office. Cyclops sidesteps the question, saying, "Good night, Mr. Urich," as he steps through the Krakoan portal. He steps out inside of the base and meets with Jean Grey, Forge, and Sync, and we learn that the others haven't arrived yet. The others start to arrive, and Cyclops and Jean give them a tour, when Jean says she is getting psychic feedback from outside, and people are panicking about a fireball that is falling from the sky. She tells Rogue to do a flyby of the city and assess the situation. Rogue takes off flying and sees the fireball. She flies over and tries to catch it and slow it down, but with no luck. They both crash into the ground. She stumbles out of the crater and turns to see a giant monster raise out of the hole and smacks Rogue away. The others arrive before she even hits the ground. Now, this new team consists of Rogue, Cyclops, Jean Grey, Polaris, Sunfire, Sync, and X-23's version of Wolverine. Now, Polaris reaches out and tries to grab the medal on the monster, but she is unable to control it and is smashed to the side. Rogue recovers and catches Polaris before she hits the ground and gets her with the rest of the team. Jean says that she can't read any mind in the monster when the creature sends out an energy wave of some nature that causes all around it to hold their heads and scream in pain. Polaris quickly puts up a metal dome around them to stop the blast and gives them a second to plan. Sync says he is still linked with Forge's powers and has a plan, but he needs a minute and their help. Jean says to think about his plan and she will send it to the rest of the team. The plan is sent to all of their minds, and they quickly start to help build what he needs to use using their collective powers. In mere moments, they have built a giant robot, with each of them controlling a different portion. Very Power Rangers and Voltron-like, to be honest. Um, they charge and knock the monster back, stopping its energy blast. It grabs one of the robot arms and rips it off, and they stumble back, and Cyclops sends out an optic blast from the robot's head as they charge at the monster again. Grabbing it with the remaining arm and opening the chest plate, allowing Sunfire to hit it with its full power fire blast. Wolverine says she sees a hole and ejects from the robot, diving through the monster's chest and out its back, finally killing it. And as the creature hits the ground, the Avengers and Fantastic Four's ships and Fantastic Car call them on comms as they show up and ask if they need assistance. They say they have it and tell them they don't have to stop if they don't want to. Both teams thank them and welcome them back to New York City as they fly away. The team gets out of the robot and Cyclops says, "Wonderful job, everybody. I think a lot of great things are going to come our way. As far as our creation today, I think the Krakoan archipelago in the Atlantic could use a new lighthouse, don't you? We can keep tinkering with it if we need it again. I'm eager to get this piece of monstrosity back to the lab at the treehouse and find out who threw this rock at Earth." And they go back to the treehouse, and he continues his monologue a little bit with their analysis of the monster. The analysis isn't complete, but it seems as though this robot form is a form of possibly a living or once living species. It had two purposes: to psychonically destroy mammalian brains, and to replicate itself using whatever he had here on Earth. The robot is not of any of the databases we have access to. Now, at this point, we switch to lost my spot. I am so sorry. All right. So we switch to New Jersey, and we get another montage of a human testing being done by a mysterious man. As he says, the Oblivion Institute, Dr. Stasis presiding. Leviathan body Bravo test 2 at same radiation levels. Humanity is born to die. But if I lived millennia, it would not be enough. There is too much to discover, too much to accomplish. So I work for the betterment of all mankind. We must overcome these fragile shells we are trapped in. We must establish new upper thresholds for what these bodies can survive. How much pain must our shells endure as we try to strive? If we do not adapt to our challenges, well then, we'll go the way of the dodo. That reminds me, I should check to see if there's any viable dodo DNA in any of the museum samples. Where was I? Ah, yes. Lesser man, die many deaths. I do not plan to die at all. Test 2 is over. Subjects survived, almost a minute longer than the first iteration. If I can continue to double the results, I will be satisfied with the accomplishments. I've labored so long, and to be eclipsed by inferiors was so demoralizing, but I continue to persevere because I must. No time to ruminate on the past failings. I must learn how I was bested. Krakoa is a dangerous tumor on this planet, and it must be metastasized. I will be the death of humanity if I am not able to cut it out, but first I must know, how are the mutants resurrecting their dead? And that ends our first issue. Taking us to X-Men number 2, Catching the Wave. Now, we open in Kansas, and a giant orb-like ship crashes to the planet as a truck drives by. They stop and get out to investigate when a blue alien with horns steps out of the ship. It takes out a beaker of red fluid and drinks it. He doubles over and starts to vomit out a black sludge, and the sludge grows and turns into an annihilation wave that kills the people and starts to sweep towards a nearby town. And at this point, we switch to New York City. Sink and Jean are levitating above the X-Men's base, practicing telepathy, when they get a psychic cry from Kansas. Jean calls the team, and they get to the Blackbird jet and go to investigate. They arrive as the wave gets to the town, and they all jump to action. Jean lifts a truckload of logs and slams them down on a group of sludge bugs. Rogue grabs one of the logs as well and throws it at a group of bugs, and Cyclops blasts it, causing it to explode into shrapnel as it hits the wave. Cyclops tells Polaris to put up a dome around the town and lock out all the bugs. And as she does, Jean says she's getting a strange ping from one of the bugs and says she needs to talk to it. Sync takes over for Polaris and supports the dome, while Jean and Polaris make a smaller dome and venture out into the wave. They find the bug she needs, and Jean says it was the host that started this wave, and she reads its mind to discover where and who started this. She screams, "I see it," and tells Sunfire to light them up. Sunfire unleashes his full power, aided by Sync, and fries the entire wave to dust. They search the perimeter and regroup at the town center. And a group of town folks approach them, and one of them asks Sunfire what his name is. Sunfire puts a hand on his shoulder and says, "Sunfire, you would not have always cheered me, I'm afraid, though. It was not always my goal to use my powers for all mankind. By the time I realized I was born gifted, I had already lost much. I did what many do. I fought for my country. Then I fought for the X-Men. Later, I fought for the Avengers. I always wondered what it would get me, and I always ended up with an empty heart. Then suddenly, Krakoa arrived, and as good as it has been for us, I had already found fighting for our country to be unfulfilling. So I asked to be chosen for the X-Men. I have always served a powerful interest with the goal of self-enrichment, but tonight, watching our world and Arako's transform, I stand before you wishing only to be of service. Those were the words I spoke on behalf of myself at the Hellfire Gala. I remain happy to serve." They thank them all and offer to feed the team. They agree and walk off with the townsfolk, ending this issue. Leading us to X-Men number 3, Problematic Fan. Now, we open in Vietnam, and the X-Men stand on a bridge awaiting an incoming ship that Sword had warned them about. It arrives and lands in front of them, and the High Evolutionary steps out and says, "The birth of Arakko is a great leap forward in your evolution, like a cell replicating. What was one is now two. I come in peace, as a friend to mutantdom, to commemorate this momentous occasion. Arakko is the achievement of this world, is it not? And its birth has caused dominoes to fall in places that are beyond your sight. Forgive me, I've been rude. Allow me to introduce my daughter, Luminos. You may have not met her. Oh, except for you, Rogue. We bear gifts for mutantdom. Each of my ships carries a nihility spear. The Anthropocene era has commenced on this world. Humanity is the primary engine of change on the climate. Their ecosystem is collapsing. Accept my gift, and the last days of humanity might even be pleasant for them. Or reject my gift, and the humans can starve as climate refugees in the decades to come. The virus within these spheres will sterilize humanity, and within a generation, your human problems will simply cease to exist. Perhaps some of them will become post-human, and I can help them achieve their full potential, like I helped you, Rogue, when I..." And Rogue lunges forward and knocks the High Evolutionary on his ass before he can finish, and says, "That man kidnapped and tortured me, X-Men. The good news is, he can take a Hulk-level beating. so none of us needs to hold back. The Evolutionary Guard attack and a mass battle breaks out. The X-Men start to get beat on pretty bad when Sync lets out a blast of all various energies. Of various energies and says, "Oh, I'm sorry." And says, "I grabbed all your powers. Pack this up, High Evolutionary, or you face the X-Men and your greatest weapon. This isn't an empty threat. Call off your attack. I can do what Luminous does, and I won't be afraid to do what must be done." The High Evolutionary laughs and snaps his fingers, saying, "Except I can simply nullify my gifts to her and your theft of them. Fear not, I will not punish you harshly. Evolutionary Guard, stand down. I will withdraw my gift. Humanity is simply have to suffer, and I will forgive the aggression visited upon my host. In return for his blood." And he points at Sync. X-23 steps in front of Sync and says, "No way." But Sync stops her and says, "If it ends this, then he can have one drop of my blood." And he pokes his finger on one of her claws and drops the single droplet of blood into the High Evolutionary's hand. The High Evolutionary nods and turns and leaves. Later that night, in New York, Ben Urich is sitting alone on a bench when a shadowed man approaches, and Ben tells him that he is late and to make it fast. The man says, "Mr. Urich, I think Mr. Urich, I think you mistake me for a common rabble that enjoys Donnybrooks with the X-Men. I'm a bird of a different feather, and you and I, we have but one life to live. Back when the U.S. government loaned the services of super soldiers to the Kingpin, what did you do? You told the truth. Tell it again. You've already got a story. It's just bigger than you think it is." You'll notice the date of the autopsy is not that long ago, and yet I observed you at the treehouse with Scott Summers just a few days ago. Cyclops was right. You are a very good writer. I look forward to reading about mutant resurrections in the Daily Bugle. And he hands Urich a file about the mutant resurrection protocols and Cyclops' death just mere weeks ago. He tilts his hat to him and turns to walk away, ending this issue. Leading us to our final issue, X-Men number 4, Nightmare on 86th Street. Now, we open at the X-Men base, and the team is all asleep as we get a monologue. The night before Halloween is Devil's Night. Most of the trees in New York have already shed their leaves, but not the treehouse in Seneca Gardens. This year, it was quiet and chilly autumn at the home of the X-Men. Sunflower observed the world as it turned. The heroes of Krakoa would make sure that dawn would come. Below the Situation Room, the X-Men lay nestled in their biomes, but their sleep was restless. Cyclops dreamt of his past tragedies and a son he had given up many times now. The leader fears not for himself, but his team. Jean Grey was also reliving a few nightmares. Sins of the past, living new lives again in dreams. The X-Men pinball between death and destruction, and then die and live again. And I've never enjoyed nightmares more than the ones in their little heads. What a delight for me, Nightmare himself. Usually when I ride across the plain, the Sorcerer Supreme rides out to meet me, but unfortunately, he's dead as a doornail. Killed over a deceased spouse. Delicious. Well, this is news since I last danced through New York. A tree ripe with nightmares, and these two are peaches. And he lays in between Jean and Scott. They'll learn when you build up great heights that you have more to lose when the flames rise. A leader of heroes afraid that as the X-Men go, so does mutantdom. And he must be fearsome because most of the others feel fear failing him. My, he's a bit of a bore, but his partner is indefinitely more interesting. Little lost girl, a child soldier, and then host to the Phoenix. A little genocide does keep one up at night. But there's another fear I smell. This one fears the unknown, and he enters X-23's room. She's afraid of what was left behind, locked away in a vault. At night she closes her eyes and claws away and the blank spot in her mind. It would be easy for her to fix. The telepath could just give her what she seeks from the mind of Sync. Yet she does not dare ask. She doesn't want to love him. And so she's paralyzed, at war with herself, and missing her past. She truly is a Wolverine. How delicious. And Jean grabs Nightmare and pulls him out of X-23's dream. He turns and says, "Unhand me," and tries to send her images of everyone she killed as the Dark Phoenix. She says she is still trying to be kind and will give him a gift of hope and redemption. This is my truth that I will show you. The one I spoke at the Hellfire Gala when I joined Mutant Minds together and advocated for myself. I was once a vessel for death. I know I can never save the number of souls that the Phoenix burned. I can't completely balance the scales, but I can strive to do it. And even though I will fail, I will leave this world and the universe a better place. I am an Omega-level telepath and telekinetic, but my greatest weapons will be the love and kindness make me an X-Men. You may be a demon, but you, like so many other weak men, projecting your own... projecting your own. And Nightmare lashes out and calls her a sanctimonious wretch. And she throws him out from the base into Central Park. He yells out and starts to cause nightmares in all the surrounding houses and says that Jean has made an enemy of the night. When a giant Jean Grey appears in front of him, saying, "You risked much by entering my mind, and I'm still clinging to my kindness for your benefit, but you must know how small you are, demon. I am not weaker than you, and shame on you for taking advantage of Doctor Strange's death to come creeping around pretending you own the place. I need you to understand. I have your scent now. If I find you preying on us again when we should be dreaming, I will end you. Now get the hell out of here." And she repels him from her mind, as well as all the New Yorkers, forcing him back into his own dimension. Now, elsewhere in New York, in a New York City cemetery, Ben Urich is walking with a crypt keeper and learns that someone has dug up Nathan Summers' grave recently, and they don't know who or how because it is not on any video. And that ends this issue. I hope you enjoyed the video this week. Join us next week as we cover King Spawn numbers 1 through 4. Thanks for watching. As always, remember to like, subscribe, and share our video to help spread our brand through the world. Also, leave a comment down below. Feedback is always welcome. Be sure to also follow us on the Jabroni Nerd Network Facebook page. So, until next week, guys, keep talking nerdy.